So ladies and gentlemen, NFL Week 1 is practically in the books, and here are all of my reactions to the full slate. Now, I do want to let everyone know that Week 1 is typically a lie. A lot of Super Bowl contenders get absolutely housed each and every single year, and then some teams that end up having a shocking victory ultimately end up coming back to reality sooner rather than later. So we have to take all of this with a grain of salt. However, let's go on ahead and dive into this. So starting off with the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. And by the way, folks, like and follow for more daily NFL content. The goal is 50,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's go on ahead and knock that out. What a game from the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think what this proved is that Baltimore continuously ignores the fact that Lamar Jackson needs some help, needs some quality wide receiver weapons to really give him an opportunity. Listen, shout out to Isaiah Likely. He was literally a centimeter away from being able to tie that game and put it into overtime, but still hate to see it. The Kansas City Chiefs, the evil empire is still there. Patrick Mahomes really leveraging the rookie in Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice had a hell of a game. Their run game is still absolutely dangerous. Pretty wild, but I don't see the Baltimore Ravens going anywhere. Definitely some offensive line issues, but we will move forward. So now next up, the Friday night football matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely sucks that this had to happen to the Green Bay Packers by going out, having a rough performance from Jordan Love at the beginning, and then also finding out that he will be out 4 to 6 weeks due to a knee injury. Not something anybody wanted to see. The Green Bay Packers, who were once favored into being contenders for the NFC North and even being a threat into the playoffs, seems to be all but lost. I highly doubt that Malik Willis is going to be able to put this team on his back, but I've seen crazier things happen. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles look like that they addressed all of the issues that plagued them last year. Their defense was absolutely impressive, and Saquon Barkley is dangerous. This dude literally collected, 4 touchdowns all game. Saquon Barkley, absolute dog, 24 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 in the whole overall receiving category. Jalen Hurts looks solid outside of those 2 interceptions, and the tush push still seems to be alive and well. And so Green Bay with an epic loss and losing out on Jordan Love, I think their season is all but over. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints absolutely opening up a can of whoop ass on the Carolina Panthers. Now, was this expected based off of everything that we saw last year? For sure. But is this insult to injury? Absolutely. When Dave Canales took over as the Panthers head coach, we were hoping, praying that Bryce Young could at least take one step in the right direction. But I think it's time for us all to admit that this kid doesn't have the athleticism to truly be a good quarterback in the NFL. The second that he receives pressure, he completely shuts down outside of the pocket. I suppose is decent, but dude went 13 for 30, 161 yards and 2 picks. This is absolutely disgusting. The New Orleans Saints are walking in after week 1 thinking that they are genuinely Super Bowl contenders based off of this by itself. When Derek Carr only went 19 for 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, huge game from Alvin Kamara, and then Rashid Shaheed absolutely going off. Funny that Olave didn't really have much of a big game. But I would say the Panthers season is once again looking forward to the first overall pick. And then the New Orleans Saints, man, what a statement. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. Vikings ended up winning 28-6. And yeah, we could all laugh that the Giants are the worst team in the NFL, or at least competing for that honor. But dude, I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I'm not sure if you guys saw that video of fans heckling him on his way out of the stadium, which is even crazier. But dude, there is no hope for this squad by itself. I don't even see Brian Dable having a job midway through the season. But when Daniel Jones goes 22 for 42, 186 yards and 2 picks, this is absolutely tough. It was cool seeing Malik Neighbors in action, 5 receptions, 66 yards, and Devin Singletary, who needs to be a factor in this offense if they have any chance of winning. Only rushing for 37 yards is absolutely pitiful. On the Vikings side of things, shout out Aaron Jones. Had a hell of a damn production out there. 14 carries, 94 yards. Justin Jefferson, obviously the #1 target for Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, man, what a game from the Red Rocket himself. 19 for 24, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I wouldn't get too high on the Vikings just yet. This was against the New York Giants, but solid win for the boys in purple. Next up, the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. Who saw this coming, folks? On my picks video, which I release each and every single Wednesday, I had the Patriots covering the spread, which at that point was +9. But if you were to tell me that the New England Patriots, without a Matthew Judon, with Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback, rookies as weapons by themselves, were going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, I would have called you crazy. Now, I understand that history does suggest that Cincinnati always drops 0-2 at the beginning of the season and they turn it on. But wow, what this is showing, based off of my predictions all offseason, that they were going to have issues adjusting to a new offensive coordinator. It showed how desperate they were that T. Higgins didn't end up getting traded, hence why they forced him into a franchise tag, because without T. Higgins, man, this team was looking absolutely abysmal. Joe Burrow only going 21 for 29, 164 yards, and Jamar Chase only 6 receptions and 62 yards, not finding the end zone. I mean, have to give a lot of credit right to the New England Patriots secondary, had a hell of a damn game, and then of course Ramondre Stevenson, who really put this offense on his back. Patriots go 1-0, and the Cincinnati Bengals, like each and every single year for recent memory, are 0-1. So now next up we have the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. This had to be one of the most boring games I've seen in my entire existence. There was only one touchdown the entire game, and that just so happened to be, of course, from Kyle Pitts. So fantasy managers can rejoice. Oh my God, he's finally being implemented into a system. But I mean, Pittsburgh, shout out to the defense, I suppose. Shout out to Mike Tomlin for really being able to grin out a gritty win. TJ Watt is an absolute force. Let's just go on ahead and give him the Defensive Player of the Year. There's no more debate on who the best defensive end in the league is. It is 100% TJ Watt. Steelers only ended up putting up field goals for their 18 points for the entire game. So yes, I am certainly concerned for this team moving forward. Their defense can't be putting out all of that production each and every single week. But shout out to the Steelers, 1-0. I'm sure people aren't even shocked anymore. And so they always end up finding a way to win, if it's Russ or if it's Justin Fields as the starting quarterback. And the Atlanta Falcons, while definitely weird, man, that offensive line was getting abused. I mean, with Kirk Cousins, 2 picks, 1 touchdown, 16 for 26 at 155. I'm not particularly sure if he's out there playing scared based off of his recovery from his knee injury, but dude did not look the same. 16 carries for Bijan Robinson at 68 yards was a head scratcher as well. I would have much liked to see him absolutely pump up those numbers, 20 to 25 carries, mimicking what Stevenson from New England did, but that was crazy. And then when you see Ray McCloud III being the leading receiver for this team, not a good start for Raheem Morris. Not at all. Next up, we have the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Texans obviously winning 29-27. I do want to give a little bit of respect to the Indianapolis Colts. They did keep it close, and at one point they were carrying the lead, but obviously the Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell offense, and CJ Stroud performances were just too much for the Colts at the end. Everyone's hyping up Anthony Richardson, man. Everyone is just sitting there watching that highlight reel throw where he connected on like a 70 yards in the air to a wide receiver into it. But guys, I mean, the stats are absolutely atrocious. 9 for 19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. Vast majority of those yards were from that 70-yarder to Alec Pierce. 3 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. It was definitely crazy. And the thing that upset me the most was that this Indianapolis Colts team gave up on Jonathan Taylor way too damn early. That was your meal ticket into potentially winning this game. CJ Stroud with 24 for 32, 234 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Nico Collins being the leading receiver, and then Stephon Diggs hauling in 2 touchdowns on the game. Houston goes 1-0, and the Indianapolis Colts end up losing a close one. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills and the Arizona Cardinals. I have a full recap of this on my YouTube channel already, so I won't spend too much time on this, but Josh Allen just solidified himself as the MVP frontrunner. All offseason, people were just talking about, oh man, we're worried about this offense, all right? The Buffalo Bills don't have Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis. How are they going to look like? Folks, I'll tell you exactly how it was supposed to look like. And if you literally just look at the Buffalo Bills right here and the distribution of targets and receptions, this is precisely what you want. 4 receptions, 3, 3, 2, 1. Everybody eats on this Buffalo Bills offense. Same thing with James Cook. Solid game from the running back side of things. This was probably one of the most well-balanced offensive attacks I have seen in quite some time. And I think this is going to be be the Buffalo Bills' identity. Now, we did end up starting off slow, of course, with the Josh Allen fumble and then also a face mask penalty that ended up sort of taking a touchdown away. Who can forget that phantom roughing the passer call that was called on the Cardinals that led to a touchdown after the fact? But the Buffalo Bills stayed resilient. Certainly some question marks on defense, but moving forward, Thursday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. Arizona Cardinals, have to give them their props as well. I think this team is going to be a hell of a lot better than people are willing to give them credit for. Offense just looks a hell of a lot different with Kyler Murray. Dude looks good out there. Marvin Harrison Jr. was certainly a surprise, only 1 reception for 4 yards. He is a rookie, and I wasn't anticipating him to go off and get 100 yards his first game. But really overall, great performance from Dortch, James Conner, same thing with Trey McBride. Shout out to the Cardinals. I think they're going to win a hell of a lot more games than people are willing to give them credit for. Now, next up, the Chicago Bears and the Tennessee Titans. I can't believe the Titans ended up choking that away, man. It was Will Levis just came out there and absolutely laid an egg and did everything that you shouldn't see a second-year quarterback do, especially with all of those weapons. Those 2 picks, half of the reason why Chicago was able to come back. Because it's not even like Caleb Williams was having a stellar Week 1 performance. I mean, he completed like 48% of his passes, 14 for 29 and only 93 yards. Didn't even put a touchdown on the damn board for the guys right over here. I mean, run game wasn't good for Chicago, and the leading receiver was DJ Moore the entire time. So when you're looking at all of this, and the only touchdown that you can really see was a pick 6 from your defense, you know that the Chicago Bears need a lot to work on, and the Tennessee Titans need to bounce back and learn how to finish games. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Miami Dolphins, and the Jacksonville Jaguars once again ended up choking a lead. All I can remember is the Travis Etienne fumble in the red zone where they could have put it away. And then obviously you have that big play from Tyreek Hill, of course, with the touchdown pass from Tua. Tua went 23 for 37, 338 yards, and only 1 touchdown with that Tyreek that really ended up putting them back into the game when a lot of people were counting them out. Rushing yards really were not that impressive. Jeff Wilson was the leading rusher, 5 carries, 26 yards, and Tyreek Hill, 7 receptions for 130, vast majority of those coming from that play by itself. Then you go back to the Jaguars, right? And they just have an inability to score. With Trevor Lawrence, he is not doing anything to prove that he deserved that contract this offseason. He's teetering toward an absolute NFL bust. He needs to be able to put things together. When your leading receiver is Gabe Davis, 3 receptions for 62 yards, and you completely just go on ahead and just abandon the run on both sides of things, it's a tough day to be a Jaguars fan, but Miami Dolphins are 1-0. Now, next up, the Seattle Seahawks, 26, the Denver Broncos, 20. Everyone was hyped up about Bo Nix during this offseason, but dude did not have a good game. 26 for 42, 138 yards, and only 2 interceptions. This Broncos team is in for a pretty long haul. It sucks going up against Seattle. I like what Mike McDonald does defensively. He still has a lot of great personnel. And now, unfortunately, the Denver Broncos are facing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who ended up holding the Atlanta Falcons at a veteran quarterback to simply just 10 points. So I don't see the Broncos starting off hot this year. Hopefully, Bo Nix bounces back, but he has one more test next week. Shout out to Seattle. Even with the stats that Geno was able to put up, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, had that rushing touchdown, which is crazy. Kenneth Walker, solid game, 20 carries, 103 yards. Tyler Lockett, again, being a fantasy darling. Seattle Seahawks should be pretty interesting for the 2024 season, but Seattle goes 1-0. Now, next up, you have the Las Vegas Raiders and the LA Chargers. And let me tell you what, if the Steelers and Falcons didn't play earlier that day, then I would have said that this is the most boring game we could possibly see. This LA Chargers offense is going to be very boring to watch this year, but it is effective, all right? Even when you have Herbert only throw for 144 yards, they gashed this Las Vegas Raiders team on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, 10 carries, 135 yards. Shout out to the rookie Ladd McConkey for being the leading receiver here and collecting a touchdown. Absolutely insane. Gardner Minshew certainly needs to be better. Went 25 for 33, 257 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He could be on a short leash over there. Zamir White, 13 carries and 44 yards, was not ideal for people that considered him to be a sleeper in fantasy. And Jacoby Myers, 3 receptions at 61 yards. How is Devontae Adams literally not a part of this game plan right here? 5 receptions for 59. It's going to be a rough one for the Las Vegas Raiders until they find a quarterback. It just is what it is. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys putting an absolute hurting on the Cleveland Browns. Folks, biggest reaction I can tell you, Deshaun Watson absolutely sucks. All right? I have been trying to hop on the train that he's not done yet. He's still young. He's going to come out and be a part of the MVP conversation. I missed. It was a giant swing and a miss. As long as Deshaun Watson is still playing football, you're going to be seeing a product like he put out on the field today. When he is blitzed, he completely crumbles. He is not the same dude from Houston. He will never be the same dude from Houston. They are stuck with this man, and don't be surprised if he says that his hamstring's bothering him week 4 and doesn't play. They would be better off with the backup at this point. I'm not even going to lie to you. But 24 for 45, 189 yards, 69, is absolutely atrocious. What makes the Browns so good is their run game. Ford didn't look too good. And then your leading receiver is David Njoku. Pretty rough. And the Dallas Cowboys, on the other hand, shout out to them. Let me tell you what this team is all about. Defense was absolutely mauling. Cleveland Browns couldn't do a damn thing. Dak Prescott did enough to make the Dallas Cowboys absolutely beat the hell out of the Cleveland Browns. This team, the Dallas Cowboys, are Super Bowl contenders. We gave them all this crap this offseason that there was no way that they were going to replicate next year, but this Dallas Cowboys team is just as much of a threat as they normally are. Let's see what they do in the playoffs, but solid performance from the boys in Dallas. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington Commanders. Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers looked everybody in the eye and said, Dave Canales who? This was not a one-hit wonder. Baker Mayfield put up 4 touchdowns, bro. 24 for 30, 289. This is the perfect fit for this quarterback, right? Looking at the contributors, man, you have Chris Godwin, 8 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. Then you ended up seeing Mike Evans do Mike Evans things as that red zone target. Bucky Irving, 9 carries for 62. This Buccaneers team looks very good. They're basically looking the whole world in the eye saying, how dare you pick the Falcons to win this division? This is ours. Now, next up, we have to talk about the Commanders. They did put up a respectable 20 points, especially for Jaden Daniels' first NFL game. And while it wasn't that impressive, I will say that he did have the most impressive performance out of all rookie quarterbacks. 17 for 24, 184 yards, and then adding 2 touchdowns on the ground and 88 yards as a rusher. So certainly intriguing, but this team desperately needs some more defensive help. It didn't help that they had a fire sale of all of their best defensive players last year before Dan Quinn ended up taking over, and obviously Austin Eckler being the leading receiver here. But watch out for the Buccaneers, man. They are for real. And last but not least, you have the LA Rams and the Detroit Lions. And let me tell you what, man, what a damn nail biter. I feel terrible for Matthew Stafford because guy had a game. 34 for 49, 317 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. Keep in mind, he lost out on Puka Nacua in the first quarter. His defense is an absolute shambles. Their best defensive player is Trey White. We all remember him getting burned last night on several things. Kyron Williams, 18 carries for 50, would have hoped to have a bit more production there. That just speaks to the Lions' run defense. And then Cooper Kupp doing Cooper Kupp things. I'm afraid that this Rams team is not going to be able to get over the hurdle of all of the injuries that it is dealing with. And so it is week 1, but still something to be concerned about. Next up, you have the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff, 18 for 28, 217 yards. Montgomery having a hell of a damn game. And how about Jamison Williams? 5 receptions, 121 yards, and a single touchdown for the guy. We were hyping this guy up out of the draft, and then obviously he got hurt his first year. Then after the fact, he got in trouble for gambling. If this guy ends up taking off and now you have a solid 1-2 punch between him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, this Lions team is going to be very difficult to beat. I'm very high on the Lions right now. Let's see what happens for the rest of the season. So folks, that's going to have to do it for today's edition of NFL Week 1 reactions. Obviously, tonight is the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets. Really intrigued to see how that turns out, but sound off in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on each and every single game. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on bell notifications. I want to get to 50,000 subs right before the end of the season. I just want to thank you again for tuning in and always riding with your boy. See you tomorrow.